morning, everyone.
Good
Morning.
How y'all doing today?
Fine, good.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that you guys were able to take time out of your day to come and be here with me today during my presentation and listen to what I have to say and hopefully learn a thing or two. So, without further ado, let's get started. My name is Andrew Benjamin, and I'm an undergraduate student at the University of North Texas. And this presentation is for one of my classes called LTEC 4121, Technical Presentation Skills. And the name of my presentation today is Shifting Gears, Driving Technical Innovation in the Automotive Industry. So, just to give you a little heads up, a little primer on what it's going to be about, we're going to be talking about some of the technological advancements that have been going on in the automotive industry in the past 5 years or so. There's really been a lot of changes and a lot of really incredible things going on, and I'd like to share some of that with you guys today, and hopefully, like I said, you'll enjoy and learn a thing or two, okay?
Fantastic.
All right, let's get started. Well, we all probably got here today in one of these. Something we're all familiar with. Everyday automobile gets us where we need to go from point A to point B. We usually don't think too much about it as how it plays into our daily lives, but there's actually quite a lot of thought that goes into cars, and they play a big part in our lives, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more here as we go. As I said, this slide is basically summarizing, as I said, cars play major roles, and as you'll see here in a bit, different cars can evoke different feelings and emotions, and different cars say different things about different people and who drives them and things like that. So here we go. What do you guys think about these two cars here, and what might you guess about the people that drive them? And what does one car say to you over the other?
My opinion is one car appears to be a family automobile, SUV. The other one is a sports car, which
Correct.
is more of a sporty appeal for the guy that likes to drive fast and have that sporty feel while he's driving.
Or a woman.
Or a woman, absolutely. So this is probably, this person who drives this car is probably a thrill seeker,
Yes.
somebody who likes to have fun and enjoy life.
Yes.
Yes.
The car on the right, the red sports car. The red.
That is the new Corvette Stingray. And what about the other car? What does that say to you?
It's more for utility purposes, getting the family around and
Okay.
getting the kids where they need to be.
Right?
It's not as
Right.
exciting as the.
Not as exciting? I agree with you. Totally. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. All right. And this kind of is just an example of something I wanted to just throw out there to you guys, just to get you kind of thinking about cars and how they are more of an extension of someone's personality and kind of who they are as a person. So with that, I'd like to talk about some famous cars in American culture, starting off with the Ford Model T that everyone knows is very famous. It's the very first production car that was produced by Henry Ford on an assembly line, which revolutionized the automotive industry and made them cheap and affordable for people all over the country, and they could get it in any color they wanted as long as it was black. So that's probably not the first time you've heard that, but still true. And then there's also the 60s muscle car movement that you guys may be familiar with, the old Challengers, Dodge Chargers of the late 60s, early 70s, that whole era of American muscle. And then there's also NASCAR. Motorsports is very popular. Millions of viewers tune in every weekend to watch the big races and root for their favorite drivers and see big flaming crashes and enjoy themselves watching that. And then there are also famous cars that we know from movies and television, like the famous Batmobile that we've seen in the Dark Knight movies lately, and There's also Kid from Knight Rider, classic 80s TV shows, the famous DeLorean from Back to the Future, Dukes of Hazzard, and of course Fast and Furious, which the new movie just came out this past weekend and raked in, I think, over $100 million. So cars are everywhere we look, and they're in our culture, and it's a big part of America. So are there any other examples or that you might think of, any famous cars I might have missed out on, or any that stand out to you in particular?
I'm thinking in terms of just the Corvette. I think it's like America's only really true sports car that had high performance.
True. Absolutely. The Corvette is one of America's highest performing cars, along with the Dodge Viper. Those are kind of like our equivalent of the Ferraris and Lamborghinis, things like that. So, absolutely right with that one. So, the next thing I'd like to discuss with you guys, if we could just kind of go around and discuss, if you'd like to share with us your first car, and as well as your current car, and what you like about your car, and what makes your car special to you. So if we have any volunteers that would like to go first.
Well, I guess we can go left to right, so I'll start.
All right.
My first car was actually a little Toyota Corolla, and it was definitely what's sometimes referred to as a hoopty. I mean,
We all start somewhere.
yes, it had plenty of miles on it. It wasn't in the best of shape. Had a couple of breakdowns where, my boyfriend had to come bail me out on the side of the highway and rescue me. But I have to say, from that hoopty, I moved on, and I now drive a Jaguar, which I really enjoy.
I'm sure you're enjoying the Jaguar a lot more.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, the performance is 10 times better than that car was back in my college days. But I really enjoy it. But I've also owned SUV, and it's quite a difference in driving a sedan or a sportier car than the SUV, and I kind of like being up higher and being able to see the highway well, and so I'm kind of considering going back to an SUV.
Okay.
So that's my
We
story.
might circle back around to that.
Okay, my first car was a Dodge Challenger. First car I ever owned, and it was a car that I had during my college days. And I liked it because it was sporty, and I wasn't married, it was just me, so something that I wanted that had sport appeal. And it was a two-door car with bucket seats in the front, and it's a bench seat in the back, and I liked it. It got a lot of compliments on it when I drove it.
Okay.
It was sporty, and today they've modified it where it had made some changes in the new Challenger, which I like it too. It resembles the old Challenger that I had in some ways, but the new one is a little bit more beefier, sits up a little taller, and a little more stocky and beefier.
Right.
So,
But still keeps that kind of classic Challenger style.
right. So
For sure.
that was my first car. You want to know what I drive now? I drive a Chevrolet Avalanche pickup truck that I use for my business, and I like driving it, even though I kind of have some small regrets. I wish I got a Toyota truck at the time. As a matter of fact, I really wanted a Toyota truck, but at the time I was wanting to purchase a truck, it didn't offer a huge back seat at the time. The back seats were very small in a Toyota. But I wanted a Toyota because I figured it would be the best vehicle based on my research and everything. So about 3 or 4 years later, after I bought my Avalanche, then they come out with a bigger back seat,
A bigger Toyota.
bigger Toyota, which I wish they had at that time, but they didn't. So that's why I ended up choosing
The Avalanche.
The Avalanche.
Okay.
But
It's kind of bad timing there.
you're right. But
Okay.
other than that, I've been happy with it.
All right.
So my first car was a Toyota Solara, also known as Pearl. And
How'd you come up with that name?
because of the color of the car. It's
Okay.
a pearl white color. And I was thrilled to get that car.
I bet.
It was a brand new car and given to me my sophomore year in college by my parents. And I still drive that car today. And what I love most about that car is that I do not have a car note.
That's great.
And the body style still looks great and it's extremely dependable.
It's been good to you all these years that you've had it?
Yes,
Not too many
absolutely.
problems?
None, very few problems. If any, it's not even real problems, it's
Yeah.
just more maintenance.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Toyota's definitely good on their reliability, for sure.
yes, I'm very happy with Toyota, for
Oh, yeah.
sure.
Great. Well, going to my next point, you said earlier you mentioned you were maybe considering getting another SUV style vehicle. So my next question to you guys is going to be, what is your dream car, or if there's any car that you're thinking about buying and why?
Okay. Well, I guess I'm first again. I guess dream cars, you kind of get into, okay, do I truly want to spend the money that's required for my quote-unquote dream car?
Right.
So that dream car is out there somewhere, in the Porsche category or so forth.
Right.
But I am seriously considering an SUV and seriously considering the Acura MDX.
Okay.
And I've done research on that car, and it actually is pretty much rated #1 in its category of midsize SUVs. And Acura is an extension of Honda, and they're also known as, a good car manufacturer with cars with lots of longevity
Absolutely.
and also great resale value.
Yeah.
So,
So just looking for something with a little bit more space.
correct, yeah. At this
Okay.
point in life, to kind of get me, up and down the highway comfortably to visit parents and check in on them and, make little family trips to family
Okay.
reunions and little short vacation trips.
So a comfortable road going vehicle.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, my dream car would be, regardless of dollars, because I'm dreaming,
That's a dream car for sure.
would be a Lamborghini.
A Lamborghini?
Yeah, that's my dream car.
Which Lamborghini in particular?
I'm not sure of the different categories, but probably would be, since I'm dreaming, the top of the line, the best,
Okay.
the best Lamborghini or the
Cream of the crop.
the cream of the crop Lamborghini.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that would be my dream car. From a practicality standpoint of view, going back to a truck, if I were to buy another vehicle, it would probably be a pickup truck.
Okay.
Because of my business, it would be a Toyota this time, because now Toyota
Okay.
has the kind of features that I wanted in a truck to begin with. So I would go back with I would buy a Toyota truck.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
most
maybe
cases.
a Toyota Tundra or?
Probably the Tundra,
Okay.
and if it wasn't available for me from a price standpoint, I'd probably go with the Ford, but
Okay.
Toyota would be #1.
Okay. So
Truck
still
type.
looking for something in the utility kind of working vehicle.
Right.
category.
It would be a
Gotcha.
pickup truck, yeah.
All right.
My dream car, it's hard to say because I'm not that into cars, but if I'm just looking at cars on the street, the Porsche convertible,
Okay.
I don't even know the style or anything. That shows you how much I'm not that into cars.
You just like the
name
Porsche
of it.
brand and the body style?
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. So, but if I had to, like, I will be purchasing a car, I'm sure. Hopefully not in the near future, but a few years down the road. And
Okay.
I'd probably look at the Mercedes, something like that.
Okay.
But who knows?
So
Maybe I'll
maybe
be able to
something-
get into a Porsche.
Okay, so something definitely in the luxury line for sure.
Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe some of the information I have here for you today will make you that much more excited about buying your new vehicle. So, just wanted to get you guys kind of thinking about some different cars and how they, like I said earlier, play a role in your life and what they mean to you and how you actually use them and things that they allow you to do. So, next, I'd like to offer you this question. What if I told you there was a car that could drive itself?
I would be somewhat skeptical, but I heard that it's in the future, possibly. Yeah. I'm the kind of person I would like to have some kind of hands-on while this vehicle is moving.
Then they need some kind of demonstration or something to prove the concept.
At least have one hand on the wheel anyway, just in case
Okay.
a computer.
Just not ready to trust it to let it take
Right.
over everything for you just
Right.
yet? Okay.
And the complete opposite. I would love a car to get into a car and it drive itself because I don't like to drive.
I like to drive. Just have your car chauffeur you around town. I'm with you on that one.
Well, I saw the movie I, Robot,
Mhm.
and there's definitely scenes in that movie with these self-driving cars, and I had to ask myself, are you really ready to relinquish control
Yeah.
of the vehicle that you're, moving on the freeway in?
Absolutely.
So that is
Definitely something that might take some getting used
yes,
to, for sure.
exactly. That would
Right.
be a challenge.
Right. Well, I know our robot is set pretty far flung in the future, but I'm going to show you an example here in a moment of something that is right around the corner. It might be coming a lot sooner than you might think. So,
Okay.
without further ado.
How are you? I'm just great.
Just turn the volume up a little bit.
There you go. Where you going? Look, Ron.
Wow. Toyota.
So we're here at the stop sign. Yes. Are using the radars and laser to check and make sure there's nothing coming the way. But fire lines won't have any die hard, man. They don't die. Hey, anybody up for a taco? Yeah. What do you want to do today, Steve? I'm all for tacos on myself. All right, well, let's go get a taco at the drive-thru. And we're turning in this parking lot. Ow. Go. Kind of creep along here. Does anybody have any money? I've got money. No, I've got no wallet right here. You roll down your window and order a burrito. Get with me. You did very well. How are you today? This is some of the best driving I've ever done.
He's behind.
95% of my vision is gone. I'm well past the middle line.
Wow.
You lose your timing in life, everything takes you much longer. There are some places that you cannot go, there are some things that you really cannot do. Where this would change my life is to give me the independence and the flexibility to to go the places I both want to go and need to go, but I need to do those things.
You gotta get out. I've got places where you have to go. It's been nice, you know. It's been nice.
Wow, that's amazing.
For sure. So what did you guys think about that?
Very amazing.
Pretty impressive.
Totally
Yes.
impressive. I'm like in awe.
Where do I sign up?
So what did you think about the self-driving car after having seen it? I know there were some feelings of maybe being a little skeptical at first, or trusting the vehicle that could drive
Right.
itself.
Right. After viewing that, I mean, it made it clear that it's just going to be a matter of adjustment. And with change, that's just part of life. It's just getting comfortable with it. But viewing that, the gentleman seemed so comfortable and calm, and and then I was just amazed to see he was blind.
Mhm.
So, he's lived a life where he has to trust and has to move forward
Right.
to enjoy life to any extent. And I think that helped him, to
Exactly.
say, hey, I gotta do what I have to do to live my life, and that was more of a convenience for him
Exactly.
than anything. And that's just amazing that technology has gotten to that point. But I think I was really wondering, how did that vehicle know when
Where it's
he wanted
going?
to go to get the taco?
Right. Well,
To turn into that taco place.
right. Well, you're probably familiar with things like GPS, the
Right.
navigation systems, things like that.
Yeah.
And you may have noticed on top of the car, there's a apparatus. It's like a sensor that was spinning.
Right.
Maybe notice that. It's like that will scan the environment
Okay.
around the car, and the car is collecting all sorts of information on the road and the conditions around it, and different cars on the road and things like that. Has all kinds of laser detection systems and things like that, and
Okay.
the car can react to
Okay.
everything around it and have the awareness to be aware of traffic signs and lights and
Right.
things like that.
So I guess if he didn't say a specific taco place, he said taco, the
Sure, it
sensor
might
picked up
Pick up
a
Taco
place
Bell or
and
the
went
local
there.
fast food taco
Okay.
place, and
Amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's impressive.
so this is just kind of an early prototype. It's a project that Google is working on, the self-driving car, and it hasn't come to market yet, but this is something that, as I said earlier, may be a reality and, being sold in dealerships a lot sooner than you may think. So, and then with that, there's a lot of people who may be impacted in ways that will be very beneficial for them. Like you said, it can be a convenience for people who have other disabilities other than Steve. You saw he was blind, and maybe before that he couldn't drive or had to get someone to
Right.
drive him somewhere, or have take public transportation, things like that. And you see that the self-driving car allows him to have more personal freedom, things
Yes.
like that.
Great.
Any other thoughts or concerns about the video?
Yeah, I think it's great. I like was said earlier, I've heard that this was something that was coming, but just I hadn't seen it.
I hadn't actually seen it.
No, so that was great to see, and it's great to know that people with that actually need that in their lives would be able to have that with this technology. So.
Exactly. And that's going to segue into where we're going with other technologies and new advancements that have been made recently, and a lot of things that are new and coming to the automotive industry for sure. So, but before we do that, I'd like to talk about a little bit about the recent past of the automotive industry, because you may have all known that in 2008 all the way up to 2010, there was a pretty rough time there where a lot of the big three, and they're actually on the next slide here, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, a lot of them really became dependent on larger trucks and SUVs that were very popular at the time, and that was kind of like their cash cow. That's like where they were getting most of their sales and things like that. And at the time, fuel costs went up, and at the time we were also in an economic recession where people were trying to save money and save on gas, so they weren't wanting to drive these big, gas guzzling vehicles, SUVs and trucks like that. And these manufacturers didn't have really any other cars in their lineup to fall back on. Like they only had maybe a small handful of other smaller sedans and things like that. And that really caused a big problem for them where they almost went bankrupt. And the government bailout was able to step in and prevent that from happening because these three companies alone employ so many people that would have just caused a deep depression in the areas where their manufacturing facilities are and dealerships and things like that. So, but you'll be glad to know that they've since made a very strong recovery, and we'll learn a little bit more about it. So, with that, they were kind of forced to restructure their lineup and develop much more fuel efficient vehicles that were a lot safer. And with that came a lot of government regulations with the EPA and things like that. And these automakers that really struggled with trying to reestablish faith in their consumers that they have great products that are cost efficient and things like that, because that's what people want in a time like that during a recession where people are trying to save money and things like that. So at the same time, it also kind of leveled the playing field because it was a worldwide phenomenon, but it was worse here in the United States, as I said, with the big three, Chrysler, Ford, and GM. So that kind of put everybody back to square one with the bailout and with them all, like I said, almost going bankrupt. So with that, they all came back with a fervor to compete with each other on pricing and having the best models and, like I said, fuel efficiency and features and things like that in their vehicles. So and next I'd like to talk about some of the industry-wide trends and innovations that came out of that. And that includes the hybrid drivetrains, which you may be familiar with, that use a electric motor in combination with a traditional combustion fuel engine to provide better mileage and fuel efficiency. With that is infotainment systems, like we said earlier, kind of referring back to the GPS and navigation, things like that, as well as like XM radio, things like that. And some people are even going so far as to install iPads in their car, just removing whatever it comes with and putting whole stock of just like an iPad in there with all their apps and everything they need to find everything around them in their area of businesses and things like that, and get them where they need to go. So that's a pretty cool idea, if you ask me. And then there's also backup cameras, which are also a great safety feature. Say you're backing out of your driveway and maybe kids playing in the neighborhood, things like that. It's something you may not be able to see traditionally if they're right in your blind spot. With a backup camera, that's not something you have to worry about. And in addition to that is the key fobs, which is something that it's part of the keyless ignition systems that a lot of cars come standard with now. Is that instead of having a traditional key that you turn in the ignition to start the car, you may have heard of this like push button start, where you just put your foot on the brake, touch a button, and the engine just starts right up. So with that, you basically have just like a little keychain that has your usual lock and unlock buttons on it. And basically, once you get near the car, you can just have that in your pocket or purse or whatever. The car will detect that, and it will automatically unlock the doors for you And then once you get in, they can actually program each key, the key fob, for each driver of the car. So if it's a family car, there's mom and dad, or maybe teenagers are driving it. Each one can be customized with each person's preferences. So like their seating position, as well as their radio presets, even the driving mode of the car. If it's a car that has like a comfort mode, sport mode, or economy mode, whatever, things like that. As soon as you get in the car will know all that, adjust accordingly, and then you can just be on your way. So pretty cool stuff.
Yes.
In addition to that, there's also heads-up displays. If you're not familiar, basically what it is, it's like a small projector in the dashboard of the vehicle that will project onto the windshield, usually right above the your steering wheel. And what that will do is provide some information for you, like your speed and your mileage, and it will also show you your GPS directions and things like that. And the idea behind that is that it keeps you from looking down and prevents you from being distracted by other things in the car, other electronic devices and stuff like that. You don't have to, look away from the road. You can just kind of have that right there in your periphery while you're driving. So making it a lot safer for you. As well as self-parking, something I personally would love to take advantage of. Maybe in my next vehicle, if it could parallel park for me, that'd be great. Something I personally struggle with. But there are also, cars that can do much more than that. They can, have lane detection where, say, for whatever reason, you begin to drift out of your lane. The car can detect that, in a timely manner, and adjust the steering accordingly to get you, back on track. As well as with that comes things like collision detection, where, as you see here in this picture, you may be wondering what's going on there. And that is an external airbag. I'm sure we're all familiar with airbags on the interior of a car, and hopefully we never have to rely on those or use them. But there are safety features there when you do need it. So with the external airbags, basically it's the same concept, but applied obviously to the outside of the car. So there's with that installed like in the door panels or the front and rear bumpers of the car, like sensors along with the airbags, and they can detect an imminent collision and respond within 30 milliseconds and inflate the airbag just like that. And that airbag can absorb up to 35% of that impact, and that can reduce the damage to your vehicle, or even maybe save a life. So,
Right.
pretty impressive stuff there.
Yes, it is.
Some of the recent trends that came out of the recovery of the car industry is strong reliance on focus on more fuel efficient cars. So you're seeing a lot more branded technologies and different patents with each manufacturer for their own technologies and fuel saving devices and things like that. Honda has their Earth Dreams technology. Each Ford has its EcoBoost engine, which we'll see here in a minute. And also Toyota has its hybrid Synergy drive. So here is the 2015 Ford Mustang. Going back to their EcoBoost engine, this is actually the first Mustang in quite some time to be produced in a 4-cylinder model. Traditionally, in the last couple of years, Mustangs have all been 6 cylinders. But with that EcoBoost engine, they can produce a car with 4 cylinders and a small turbocharger that will still give you the same performance that you get out of a 6-cylinder, while at the same time being more fuel efficient and better on gas mileage and being better for the environment as well. And in addition to this, I'm going to show you some other vehicles, and I want you to kind of pay attention and see if you can notice what they may all have in common. So,
Okay.
next one is the Mercedes-Benz SLS. This is pretty stylish in the aluminum blue finish there.
Good looking vehicle.
For sure. Harkening back to the Gullwing Coupe. And here we have the Porsche 918 Spyder. Love to drive one of those someday.
Yeah.
And then here we have the stunning LaFerrari. Ferrari red.
Oh, wow.
So,
Great looking automobile.
looking at those, what would you think may be the common denominator there?
As far as I could tell, they're all, seem to have in common the fact that they're high-performance sports style sports vehicles.
Right,
Mhm.
absolutely.
My opinion is they all are sports cars, and like the first person said, they all appear to be high performance cars. They're very exotic looking, which I
For
like
sure.
that from
Especially the Ferrari.
sporty aspect.
Right.
Uh,
Kind of like the Lamborghini you mentioned earlier.
Right, yeah. So it has a lot of distinct features
Mhm.
that makes it extremely sporty looking and
Right.
very fun to drive. All
Okay.
of them come.
All right. That's definitely something that's very apparent from a surface level, just looking at them. But one thing that may be a little bit of a surprise to you is that all of these cars, with the exception of the Mercedes-Benz, are hybrids. They
Okay.
have some form of electric motor or regenerative braking that can recharge the battery
Okay.
and go feed back into that motor, as well as traditional combustion engine, and it can switch back and forth between the two or use them both in conjunction to provide better fuel efficiency and performance as well.
Great.
But the Mercedes this isn't actually a hybrid. This is actually 100% electric.
Okay.
So no emissions there. Just plug it in and go. And later we'll see another example of that. So this may be what you typically think of when you hear the word hybrid. This is the Toyota Prius. It's famous for being kind of the groundbreaking or trailblazing vehicles in the hybrid space.
Right.
Is one of the first, and is still going strong, and it's doing a lot to help the environment and cut back our reliance on those fossil fuels that we mentioned earlier. Because
Right.
as we know, even though it may not seem like it, it is a finite resource, and that won't be around forever. So we do need to find a way to move on to other fuel sources. So here we have another great example of an electric car, other than similar to the Mercedes SLS. This is the Tesla Model S. You may have seen some of these on the road. They're pretty eye-catching. And the Tesla is actually one of the most technically advanced cars that's on the market today. The Tesla is, just like the Mercedes, is 100% electric, uses a battery that can charge and give you mileage up to 265 miles. So, and that's on a single charge. And then, when you come home after a long day's work, pull into the garage, you simply just, as you would with your cell phone, just plug it in before you go to bed at night.
Wow.
And then when you're ready to go to work in the morning, just unplug it and you're on your way.
Fantastic.
And the other really impressive thing about the Tesla is that because it is 100% electric and there's no combustion engine, hardly any moving parts, this car has virtually no maintenance.
Jeez.
Other than, taking care of the tires and making sure all the lights and blinkers are working. Pretty amazing, with the, added benefit of virtually no emissions. So,
Right.
pretty impressive. And the Tesla is a perfect example of the type of vehicle that we hope to see become more and more prominent going forward in the future. And it is kind of the middle ground between the Prius and the higher performance cars that we looked at earlier. Right now, Tesla goes for around $100,000, depending on what options you get on and things like that. But going forward, as the cars become, people start to see that they're a viable solution, and they actually start to drive them and get a feel for them, and they start to catch on, the market will adapt to that, and you'll start to see the prices come down, and you'll see more affordable models and things like that, and it will only continue to grow from there.
Right.
So, kind of looking forward into the future, as we saw earlier with the Google self-driving car, and the Tesla is a trend towards smart cars, cars that can communicate almost, on the same level that we do as humans, where they can be aware of each other and share information back and forth, and be aware of their surroundings and gather a lot of information that can help with traffic and emergency vehicles and certain situations where there may be accidents on the roads and things like that. But hopefully these technologies can help reduce a lot of those accidents and make the roads a lot safer, and at the same time, help the environment with reduced emissions and things like that, for sure. So we never know what the future holds, but from what we've seen here, it does look pretty exciting.
Yes.
And you agree?
For sure.
I agree. It's something to look forward to
Absolutely.
in a positive way.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for me, or anything you'd like to share something hopefully that you learned today that you'll take away from my presentation?
Well, I stated that, I was a little bit reserved about cars that could drive themselves, and some of the technology is just, trying to get adjusted to the whole concept of all that change. But then when you get educated and learn things more and more about the technology as you presented the information here, I can feel more comfortable, and I see myself feeling more comfortable just during your presentation with the idea that, this can really help improve all our quality of lives and the way we impact the environment. It can help people that are disabled to be able to have a better quality of
Like the
life.
example we saw earlier
Right,
with Steve
yeah.
and his,
In the Google car,
handicapped,
the
for sure.
Toyota. And also, helping our environment. So, the presentation has definitely enlightened me in how I perceive all this technology, and gave me a better comfort level with it. So,
Good. I'm glad that was my goal here today. Hopefully share some new information with you. So.
yeah.
Yeah, technology is something that we all have to grasp and get comfortable with, because it's here and it's coming even faster.
Right.
Especially when you inform us about these new vehicles that that's coming here in the future. I've got a question regarding the amount of mileage that you can expect to get on a electric car. Yeah, how many miles do you think you can get on the electric car before you have to recharge it again?
Okay. Well, it depends on the car, for sure. Each car is going to be a little bit different, and it depends on the size of the battery, and that's one big factor that will play into the price for different electric vehicles. But on average, I think, if I'm right, it's about 120 miles on a single charge. And there's cars with larger batteries like the Tesla I mentioned earlier. They have a model with a much larger battery that can provide up to 265 miles on a single charge. So, anything kind of in between that range. And then I'm sure as things move forward in the future with new developments and how those batteries are manufactured and produced, they'll be able to provide even longer charges. So.
Right.
Good.
Right.
Good.
Any other questions or thoughts?
Nothing else comes to mind.
Nothing at the moment? All right, well, I'm glad you were all able here to make it today, and like I said, I appreciate your time being here to view my presentation, and I'm glad you were able to take something away from it, and
Definitely, definitely.
like I said, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good information.